We get a lot of prospect promotions to catch up here on the call up, as that's usually what happens on the other side of the All-Star break, but there's just been a ton. I don't know if it's one of those recency bias things, Jack, or if it really was one of those waves this year where we just had a lot of notable players. I think some of our personal favorites, that kind of helps too, but a lot of players getting promoted, also some trades going down. We will be talking about that in our extra episode over the weekend, just so you know. We'll get that out of the way right now. I've been at the National. It has been crazy. It has been really fun. I got to meet a lot of great people that actually listen to the call up. So thank you to those who came over and said hello. I saw some unreal collections, and we'll talk about that a little bit in tomorrow's episode. But we're going to make up for lost time with an extra episode on Saturday, where we're going to talk about these trades as they have gone down. Gives us a little bit more time because things are percolating. So there'll probably be a few more deals that go through tonight, and we're going to break those all down on Saturday. I'm very excited. Already some fun prospects being exchanged all of a sudden, and we still got plenty of time before the deadline. But today, before it gets lost, because it's going to with all the trades, we want to catch up on all of the promotions because, Jack, there is a lot.
It was a perfect storm because we had the draft on the front weekend of the All-Star break, and then the back weekend, I was out of town, and then you immediately went to the National, and then all of a sudden, we're like a week and a half delayed on Jacob Wilson getting up for his big league call-up, and it's like, well, we need to catch up and talk about that. So we've got, I want to say 3 big league call-ups that we got to talk about, notably Jacob Wilson, a couple other guys, one in the American League East, one in the National League East, and then a whole bunch of guys kind of climbing the rungs of the ladder in their organization. Zebby Matthews already has a start in St. Paul under his belt. A couple of guys have a couple big hits in High A in Grand Rapids, Michigan already, so we're going to talk about all that.
And it's already crazy. I didn't expect it to pick up trade market wise. So I'm very excited for the Saturday episode. And then we've got an interview that we're going to put out now that we have so much to talk about. We're going to push a Braxton Ashcraft interview, which I'm very excited for y'all to hear, probably sometime next week as well. Look out for that. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he gets included in some sort of trade package with the way he's looked. So
I let
there's so much going on.
Prospect. I let it with, all right, we're here with Pirates right-handed pitching prospect Braxton Ashcraft. By the time you hear it, it might just not be Pirates.
It might be Rays. Who knows? Who knows? But we have a full list here. And I know you've got all of those players ready to go. Some that we've been kind of eagerly awaiting to get promoted, and then others that I think it's just a fun way to catch up and be able to just discuss them. Maybe it's been a little bit since we've been able to discuss those players, but yeah, we're late on some big league call-ups and excited to fill in on that as well.
Yeah, and the first one that we got to talk about is Jacob Wilson with the Oakland A's, and he's hitting 1,000 in his big league career. He hit the IL with, I want to say, a hammy issue.
Yeah, it was a hammy.
Yeah, but Jacob Wilson got up. He's 1 for 1 in his big league career, and this comes after a 19-game stretch in AAA where he slashed 398, 444, 639. And that came off of a 22-game stretch in AA where he slashed 455, 473, 705. So on the year in the minor leagues, including 5 games at the complex, in 46 games, this guy has an 1162 OPS. It's inflated because he's hitting, 438 in his minor league season to this point. But, man, I mean, you hit, and he's proving to be that and more when it comes to impacting the ball enough, ability to stick it short. The Max Schumann era is unfortunately almost over in Oakland, and I think it's Jacob Wilson time officially.
Yeah, it was ready to fully be that until the hammy went, and, I'm sure the A's are probably saying, why couldn't that hammy have gone a couple days earlier? So he's not a big league IL. So I'm glad for his sake that it happened after the big league promotion. Take that, A's. You're not manipulating this man's service time. But no, it was unfortunate, to see him pick up the base hit and then unfortunately have that happen right after. But, a lot of the discourse around Jacob Wilson, I think I've seen some say, oh man, like, how is this guy not a consensus top 10 prospect? Like, we haven't seen a guy hit like this. This is everything Nick Madrigal was supposed to be. And there's some validity to that. But then I also see others say like, this is, a flash in the pan. There's no way that he can sustain this at the big league level, blah, blah, blah. How about a middle ground here where it's an archetype that is really difficult to succeed with in Major League Baseball because it's never been harder to make consistent contact, and not only consistent contact, actually be able to drive the ball where they ain't, especially when your EVs are, not very high, especially when they're able to have so much information as to where you like to hit the ball. And he is a guy that likes to pull it a little bit. So that's something that, can be a little bit more difficult for him at the big league level. Hey, this guy likes to pull, you can pitch him accordingly. But the thing is I think Jacob Wilson's so good with the bat that he will adjust to you adjusting. And I just think this is a guy that's going to outperform a lot of the analytics. He's going to outperform a lot of the underlying batted ball data. But that said, I don't think he's going to be a guy that takes the league by storm necessarily. I think he can just be a really solid everyday big league shortstop. And the fact that he can play there defensively, what we've seen there has been awesome. He ran a 96% in zone contact this year, before the call up, which is just... It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. That's going to put him right away up with some of the best, contact guys in Major League Baseball. But there are some hitters that have run contact rates that strong that just don't have enough impact and put it on the ground too much and don't succeed. I think that he has found, as you alluded to, Jack, just enough impact here where he can make it work. And you saw it happen in doubles, 25 doubles in 46 games as well. This has twice as many doubles as strikeouts so far this season. That is wild. I don't know if we're going to see the home runs the same way, but I think we are seeing that he found a way to elevate a little bit more and create a little bit more loft. I don't know what this is all going to look like because he's a bit of an outlier, but I do think that he has answered the questions enough to prove that, one, he's more than worthy of a big league stint here and a big league opportunity. And two, that he can just be that throwback type of player that can make it work at the big league level.
I was listening to a couple of, I was listening to Nico Horner's guest spot on a local talk show in Chicago at 670 The Score. I think it was the morning show. Might have been the afternoon drive show. But he said something that was very funny, very old school. And he said, exit placement is as important as exit velocity. Okay, sure, Nico. But counterpoint, I was watching O's Marlins and Kevin Brown, the TV voice of the Baltimore Orioles, cited batting average on batted balls 95 plus. And I think it's about 480.
Yes.
You got to hit the ball hard. And the thing is, Jacob Wilson is hitting the ball hard enough consistently. The placement's good too, but so much of what I think the Nick Madrigal truthers when he was coming out of Oregon State loved about Nick Madrigal is what Nico Horner said. Oh, exit placement's more important than exit velocity. No, you got to have a blend of both. And I think we're learning that Jacob Wilson does have a blend of both instead of being the next in line in that Nick Madrigal thing, like you're saying.
I mean, I know organizations that don't even look at 90th percentile as much as they look at just percentage of batted balls over 105 because the slugging numbers on batted balls 105 and above are just so absurd. That's something that Jacob Wilson's just not really going to have. So his margin for error is thin. That's the thing. But he has added enough here to where, I think he can hit it hard enough to split the gaps. He can hit it hard enough to sneak it through the infield. And those were the things, because the reality is at the big league level, you're not going to hit the sweet spot of the bat every single time. These pitches are too good. So can you just have enough bat speed and enough impact to where it's on your hands a little bit, you can fight it into the outfield. If it's off the end of the bat, you can fight it through. And his first hit was kind of that. He kind of fought it into shallow left field. So that does give me a little bit of optimism. But by the way, 90th percentile of 99.5. Not bad. That's right on the edge of enough. I think that's kind of in the Uriah's range, a little bit more than him, actually.
So to your point, we're not asking him to hit the ball 105. We're asking him to hit the ball 95. And the numbers are great at 95. So just keep doing that. Keep peppering in the 90-95 range. If you can give us consistent hard hit balls, that's all we ask. And there's going to be enough value here to be a consistent big league everyday shortstop.
The defense being what it is too really helps. Yeah. And, I'm excited. I think the A's, they just need a safe, solid player. Nick Allen wasn't going to be that guy for them. I think Wilson is that guy. And once he comes back, he should be, fun and just a high floor piece for them. So it's fun to have these guys start to make their way up pretty quickly. And Wilson, record time up there too, to the big leagues for an A's prospect. You don't see it too often, but he's cut from the cloth to be able to do that.
Yeah. Next one that we got to talk about is Chayce McDermott with the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
He got up for his major league debut. Friend of the program, Chayce McDermott, was an excellent conversation that we had during spring training. I would highly recommend going back to listen to that because he knows his stuff on the hill and he knows how he can get outs at the major league level. And I thought all in all, This debut was pretty solid for McDermott. He went 4 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned. He K'd 3 and walked 2. He worked around some traffic. He got burned on, I want to say, a homer from Josh Bell, solo shot from Josh Bell. But
Yep.
man, like McDermott, he showcased each pitch in a vacuum and proved that it was a big league quality pitch, a big league caliber pitch. Cade Povich, and I know like Povich was fine in his debut and then he really started to blow up a little bit. McDermott, I don't think has those blow-ups in him. I think his stuff is too good to get hit around the ballpark, and he showed that. I tweeted out a clip of a split that McDermott threw that was under 1,000 RPM that had Jesus Sanchez looking so silly, like out in front, pretty much spinning, like corkscrewing himself into the dirt with the swing. If he can do that, and he's got the heater everybody knows and loves, and he's got the slider that everybody knows and loves. I mean, this guy has 3 different looks that can get big league hitters out, and I thought he did a pretty good job showcasing all 3 of those in Miami in his big league debut.
He threw strikes, and I think the only time that he's going to have a blow up is really, it's not because people are hitting him, to your point, it's because he's not throwing strikes.
Right.
And at that point in the major leagues, you're getting pulled. So like you see some of those blow ups in the minors, it's because they're not going to have the bullpen eat it. It's the wins don't matter enough. So like you're going to have to weather the storm sometimes. And that's the one thing when Chayce loses the zone, it's really just him beating himself. We saw over the last few weeks, he's not been doing that. He's been throwing more strikes and he's been dominating through a lot of stretches. And then in his big league debut, I thought it was just kind of missing with a couple spots was really the only reason, like Cutter that just kind of stayed flat, stayed up. Bell hit it out. But overall, I mean, 63% strike rate in that big league debut is good. And look, I know that it's a Marlins lineup, but that Marlins lineup swung well all series. They won a game that Corbin Burns started. Like it was just the Orioles have not played the Marlins well, or whatever, or I would say vice versa. The Marlins, for some reason, like to hit against the Orioles this year. So McDermott, I thought, was pretty solid. All in all, I agree with you. And this is someone that, if you're looking at maybe who can get hot and actually make a big difference, people have said, okay, yeah, Povich is ahead of McDermott, maybe in the pecking order or whatever. That's fine. I believe that McDermott is more likely to be able to help the Orioles this year because he can really be that Swiss Army knife for them. They went out and got Zach Eflin. We're going to talk about the prospects that are in that deal tomorrow. But McDermott in the playoffs or in a hybrid role, this guy could come in for 2 innings and just he could strike out 5 out of 6, and you're just like, whoa. But he could also be a guy that in a game in the postseason where it gets ugly quick can come in and mop it up. Like he can also be a guy that if all goes to shit and things are going crazy, can get the ball and give you a chance to win or win you a game if he's on. So I think there's just more that McDermott can bring to the table because the fastball is so good, because the stuff in general is so good, and you can have a shorter leash with him. But I see McDermott being more conducive to help push this Orioles team over the top than maybe a Povich, given what they need and the kind of roles that he can fill.
Sometimes really good teams need to turn to unfamiliar faces or relatively unfamiliar faces in big moments. Like, don't forget, we're 3 years removed from Tucker Davidson starting Game 5 of the World Series for the World Series champion Atlanta Braves. Like, sometimes the situation dictates that. And, Tucker at that point, I think he still had rookie eligibility. He was, by no means like what a Braves fan will Sharpie in, like, oh yeah, Tucker Davidson starts Game 5, we're going to be fine. But guess what? He threw 3 innings. He threw 4 innings. He got the job done in that. And that is exactly what McDermott can be. There's going to be a big game, whether it's at the end of the regular season or in the postseason, where I think you're going to see Chayce McDermott throw 2-3 innings, and he's probably going to be pretty solid in it.
Yeah, I would say, and if you look at the numbers against each of his pitches, like this is a guy that has, I think, number 3 stuff, and then it's really kind of fringy swingman bullpen command at this point. But the thing with him that's interesting is it's not always that way. He has stretches where the command looks great and he flashes like a middle rotation starter. So that's the interesting thing with McDermott. He's very difficult to peg, but when he's on, he looks like a mid-rotation arm. And that's enough, I think, to be excited about him. And I think the Orioles Orioles fans should be pumped that he's getting an opportunity now, because the Orioles should want to know what they have here. And this is a guy that can help them.
Yeah. Third of 4 call-ups that we're going to talk about to the big leagues. Nacho Alvarez Jr., the infielder for the Atlanta Braves. Nacho, 21 years old from Fontana, California, was a 5th-round pick in 22 out of junior college. In 22, he played 30 games after being drafted, an 844 OPS. Last year, 116 games in high A, a 787 OPS. Hit, 284, 7 homers, 16 bags, and 21 attempts. This year, 48 games in double, a 693. But then he gets the bump to triple, and he balls. 28 games in triple A, 336 with a 1007 OPS. He's 1 for 13 with 6 Ks in the big leagues. This is the Vaughn Grissom situation all over again. Ozzie Albies gets hurt. They turn to a breakout prospect. And, I don't think Nacho is at the level that Vaughn Grissom was at when Grissom came up in 2022. But, this is like Spider-Man meme equivalent situation where Nacho could very well be on the roster for the rest of the year and then not sniff it again in 2025.
Welcome to the big leagues. You get Hunter Green. So right. It's like that part is just really tough. You got to face Hunter Green right out of the gate, and then you get Montes, who actually looked all right, and then you got Severino and Edwin Diaz. Like, it's just been one of those stretches to begin his career. I do think he's a guy that, fortunately for them, as you mentioned, kind of riding a hot streak before the debut, where, I think over his 30 games between AA and AAA before the call-up was hitting over 300, had an OPS close to 900. He plays, solid second base, really strong second base, plays a good enough shortstop. Professional hitter. And I know that gets thrown out a lot, but he's a guy that's going to run a chase rate at 20%. He's going to produce above average contact rates. He's going to grind out ABs. He's just a tough guy to punch out. So even though he's 21 and he's making a leap, it's not as crazy of a leap as Vaughn Grissom, who, had only just played a couple weeks of AA. But to your point, Grissom was a lot more tooled up and I think had a lot more upside and still probably does. But Alvarez, he's had a lot of helium as a guy that I know a lot of people are starting to add to top 100 lists, and I get it. He's a fun, well-rounded player that, again, was starting to tap into power as well, hitting 6 home runs over his last 30 games. I think there's a lot to like here. I think this is a guy that can be a solid regular. I think he's more of a second baseman, stretched a little bit thin at shortstop, but he's rushed. This is a guy that you probably would have liked to have had a couple more months in AAA. Yes, he was hitting 300 over those 30 games and riding a hot streak, but all things considered, probably a pretty good option for them, given that Albies goes down. You have a guy that's been red hot that can plug right in to the middle infield and help you there. I think he should be a bottom of the order guy. I know I think they started him right away, like in the 2-hole.
Yeah, which was, he hit second in his big league debut.
That's outrageous. I don't know why they did that. To me, he's a bottom of the order guy that can grind out ABs, see a lot of pitches, and potentially set the table back for the top of the order. He's 21, so there's time for him to develop, and I do think he can be an average regular, maybe even a little bit better than that, just because he's so well-rounded, might grow into a little bit more power. But right now, he's a guy that's filling in, and they should just put him in a situation a little bit more conducive to success. They move him to the 7-hole in his 3rd game. I think we'll probably see him more in that area. I'm not too worried about the strikeouts. This guy doesn't punch out usually. He's a good at bat. And I think it's just a little bit of that adjustment period. And again, welcome to the big leagues. You got to face Hunter Green, Edwin Diaz, and Luis Severino, and even Frankie Montes. Like it's a big leap.
Yeah. And, even with all of that in mind, from a fan and baseball viewer perspective, I'd much rather watch him get ABs than Whit Merrifield, who just got signed to a throwaway deal after he was released by the Phillies. I feel like this is better for the Atlanta Braves that Nacho Alvarez is playing as opposed to Whit Merrifield, although Whit is, good bench piece to add down the stretch, and you're hoping that he can be, fine.
Yeah, and an insurance policy if Nacho just really looks overmatched, but I just don't think he totally will. Look, he might not be productive, but he might not look. I don't think he's going to look totally overmatched because of how comfortable he was at the AAA level and how hot he's been of late. But we'll see how he adjusts. I think he's going to be able to, because this is just a guy that is a really polished hitter for a 21-year-old, and there's a reason why he's flown up through the minors so quick.
There is a guy that just got up to make his big league debut a couple days ago that is on a team that is going to try a whole bunch of different things as soon as early this coming week. Brooks Baldwin made his major league debut for the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox are going to move a lot of notable pieces, maybe not Luis Robert, with what we know now, maybe not Garrett Crochet, but a Paul DeYoung could make a lot of sense to move. If somebody has any interest in a Nicky Lopez, go ahead and move him. Brooks Baldwin is up now, 7 games with the White Sox. He's 2 for 21, so not an excellent start. Brooks Baldwin played 26 games in high A last year, 63 in low A, 26 in high A. This year, 74 games in double A, had an 826 OPS in a very pitcher-friendly Southern League. Goes up 8 games in Charlotte, really solid, hit 345 in 8 games, and he gets the call. It's a zero-stress environment for Brooks Baldwin to come up, but this was a guy that, I didn't know who he was until he was hitting like 300 in Birmingham a month into the season. I was like, oh, I should probably start paying attention to this.
It's been fun. It's a cool story. Switch hitter, guy that is just for where he was drafted, 12th round, like to be able to climb through the minors as quickly as he did. What was it? 202 minor league games, and to fly that quickly as a 12th round pick is a testament to just he's a gamer. He's a dude that has definitely outperformed the underlying metrics to a degree. And what's also fascinating with him is he's been hitting secondary pitches better than four-seam fastballs. Four-seam fastballs, he hit 250 prior to the call-up with a 660 OPS. But then sliders, changeups, and curveballs, he slashed 352, 392, 535. So it's just one of those unique circumstances. I don't love how that bodes for the big league level because, you're going to see a lot of heaters and they're going to come after you. And I do think some of that is a bit of a timing and bat speed thing. But they drafted this guy in the 12th round. I love watching him play. Like, he's definitely a guy that just gets the most out of everything that he brings to the table. And he deserves a big league look here. I don't know what it all looks like because it's not a guy that I've had the opportunity to see a ton of, but he didn't even play that long in AAA, as you alluded to, just the climb and everything that he has done. He looked really good, though, the second they moved him up there. So he's a tough one for me to peg. I'd have to watch him more on video and things like that. The data is very interesting, but it's hard to deny what he was able to do as a guy that was drafted in the later rounds and has handled every assignment and promotion really, really well. And there's something to be said about his ability to hit secondaries, and hopefully that translates more than the struggles to hit, the fastballs that he has seen so far. And I do also like that he's been very even from both sides of the plate as a switch hitter, which is nice. So they might have a piece here. He might be a utility piece for them. He's played second, he's played third, he's played short, he's played left. He could be a utility piece at the big league level if the bat continues to come along.
Yeah, we are going to get to the minor league promotions here in a moment. But before that, I want to tell you about our friends at Game Time, because Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting big league and minor league tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB and MILB tickets. You can use Game Time for last-minute deals, save up to 60% off. And again, use my favorite, the all-in price toggle. I know what fees I'm getting into at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code JUSTBASEBALL, all caps, one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Get out to CHS Field in St. Paul and go see Daniel Zebulon Matthews throw. Zebby, in his AAA debut with St. Paul, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 homer, 6 Ks. How many walks?
How many do you think?
0.
Zippo.
This guy in 83 innings, sporting a 1.95 ERA, 97 Ks, 6 walks. This is George Kirby at Elon stuff, but he's doing it in high A, double A, and triple A. Yeah. Fun. Is he? Who is more appointment viewing on the mound in minor league baseball for you than Zebby Matthews at the moment?
Only Job, only Jackson Job, just because he yawns and throws 5 no-hit innings, 6 no-hit innings. But right. In terms of outside the obvious, it's Zebby Matthews and I think it's Quinn Matthews at this point. Both of them because they're so refreshing. They fill up the zone, but it doesn't come at the expense of quality of stuff. And Zebby, it was a first inning where it was kind of welcome to AAA. He allows a base runner, and then he throws a bad cutter that just kind of stayed up, and Dylan Dingler crushed it out. And then from there, he really never looked back. Like he cruised from there. And that's the other thing that I love about Zebby Matthews is like AAA. I was a little bit, and I was just curious, how is he going to handle maybe the different zone? How is he going to handle maybe some adversity as hitters? Zebby fills it up, and you can get away with velocity and maybe the stuff not being as wipeout because you're just going to overpower hitters at the lower levels, and even in AA. AAA, not always going to be the same way. He gives up that homer on a pitch that just wasn't great, but still continues to attack the zone, didn't nibble, just continue to fill it up with his quality stuff. It's good stuff. So, sometimes guys start to lose that trust in it. He didn't at all. And I was really, really impressed with how he bounced back after that first inning and just continued to fill up the zone. That cutter's been a great pitch for him all year. And sometimes you leave it up. He left it up, and from there, he was dynamite. Still, every time I check in, Jack, I'm assuming that it's going to wane a little bit. The strikeout or the strike rate per pitch is hilarious. 77% on the four-seam fastball, 73% on the cutter, 69% on the slider, and overall across his whole arsenal, a 72% strike rate. Outrageous.
Nobody should be landing a slider at a 69% clip.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
While also getting a 20% swinging strike rate.
So seeing what you've seen from the first, 14 innings of David Festa, would you consider the Zebby for Festa swap?
Yeah, the inside of organization trade.
No. I mean, I'm saying
like a trade with St. Paul real quick, like swap them back and forth. Yeah, I mean, I think, or are you talking about prospect rankings as well?
No, I mean, I guess both, but I'm just thinking in terms of the big leagues, because if Zebby Matthews has one or two more starts in AAA where he looks like this and he's not walking anybody. I know the strikeout and walk numbers have been fine for David Festa. It's 14 and a third, 15 Ks, 3 walks, 20 hits in 14 and a third. Part of me is thinking that Zebby might just be in a better position to have big league success than Festa, who spent 2.5 months at the AAA level.
Yeah, it's very possible. Anytime you have a guy with that command who actually still has pretty good stuff, it's probably going to be a little bit safer and more consistent. It was nice to see Festa bounce back against the Phillies a couple days ago. Went 4 and a third, he gave up 4 hits, but he's punched out 7 and walked just 2. That's great. Only giving up the 1 earned run was definitely a positive for him, and proving that maybe he can hang around there, which the irony in it is he threw before that and in AAA and just didn't look right, and they pulled him, and then he didn't throw for a couple weeks there, or at least 12 days. So I don't know totally what's been going on with Festa, but to your point, when he doesn't have that slider working for him, yes, the changeups come along, but it's really hard for him to consistently get outs when the slider's not there, because he's fastball, changeup, and if it's not like the fastball's an elite pitch, it's gotten better and it's 95, but it's not off the charts with the characteristics. Fastball, changeup, when your slider's not there for righties, is not totally going to play. So I do think that there's a little bit more of that consistency and margin for error for Matthews, who is never going to have command issues really in a game. I don't think I'll be shocked the day that happens. Maybe one or two games where something's not right, but he's always going to bounce back and find it. I do think that Zebby Matthews at this point probably gives them a better chance. I think Festa could, similar to what we were talking about with McDermott, serve a role there where he can come in, go fastball, slider, and just rip them and give you a couple innings strong. But if you need someone to preserve the bullpen and give you the highest probability quality start every 5th day, I do think that's Zebby Matthews at this point. And that's more of a testament to Matthews than anything against Festa not quite making that adjustment just yet.
Right. 2 West Michigan Whitecaps that we got to talk about here. We'll start with Max Clark, but if you've got Tiger fever right now, the second name is not going to be of shock to you. Max Clark is the newest member of the Tigers High affiliate in West Michigan, and Clark is 5 for 14 with a 2-run game-tying triple with 2 outs in the 8th inning and 4 driven in already. Clark is I know he started this year in low A slow, but he was the position player that impressed at the Futures game. right? Like, obviously, there were a couple of good swings. Baldwin had a good swing. Collier had a good swing. But, like, it was Clark that I think you left saying, wow, he really looks the part here. And in his first 3 games in high A, he really looks the part here, huh?
He's impressive. It looks like it's coming together for him. And we saw going into the year, he made some swing adjustments that looked a lot better, looked a lot more conducive to driving the ball. I think it allowed him to be more adjustable to breaking balls and just live in the zone longer. But it took some time, I think, for those adjustments to translate in game and for him to be able to repeat those things in game. I think we're seeing the byproduct of that now. The last 30 games for Clark, 333, 405, 553 slash line, 957 OPS, 11% walk rate, 15% K rate. And I think that power is going to continue to tick up, getting him out of that Florida State League that we know just saps the impact. I'm still waiting for that power to come along completely. Like, I'm curious what the end looks like for him, like the final form power-wise, but 5 home runs in 30 games is more than enough from a guy that's going to hit you the triples, as you mentioned. He's going to steal bags. He's going to put bat on ball. He's going to play great defense. That's enough. So we're seeing the power tick up, and I think it's going to tick up even more in better environments. Of course, you get to Comerica, I think he's going to be more of that triples monster than the home run guy, but I think we're seeing here that he's got enough power to get him out pull side, and he's growing into the complete hitter that Scott Harris saw and that 5-tool guy that he talked about when they took him. So it's been fun to see. And you said it for me, like at the Futures game, not only just the way that he looked in the box, the way he commanded his ABs, and he really does command his ABs well. It was also just the physicality there. Like he's somebody that I don't think, how they say like the TV can like put on some weight for you sometimes or whatever. I don't think that
for him.
Yeah, I don't think it does him justice. I think he looks, and he's strong. We always knew that he's a gym rat and all that good stuff. But I think that the MILB TV feeds don't do him justice. Like, he's a physical dude, and I think we were able to see that when we were at the Futures game.
Another physical hitter with the Tigers that got up to West Michigan is 1 for 7 to start his career in high A. So I would sell your card so I can grab them. Kevin McGonigle. I didn't like fully wrap my brain around how good the low A numbers were until right now. Kevin McGonigle, 60 games, an 8.8% K rate and an 877 OPS in the Florida State League. He was 20 for 22 in the stolen base department. 60 games. This cat struck out 24 times and he had 15 doubles. He had 4 homers, but he hasn't taken headlines over the last 48 hours like Max Clark has. McGonigle is as good in the batter's box as Clark, maybe better at this point.
I think he might be a better hitter. Of course, Clark, you get tools galore otherwise, and McGonigle is going to be a second baseman most likely. But I mean, in terms of just hitting ability, there's not many better hitters in the minor leagues, period, I think. Of course, it's hard to compare guy, 19-year-old who just got to high A, just some of the more advanced prospects in AAA. But in terms of just pure hitting ability, I'd put McGonigle up there with anybody. And he's a 70 hit for me, and there's not a lot of those right now. What's so impressive about McGonigle and what I've continued to see is it's not just the ability to make contact in the zone, out of the zone as well. And he spoils tough pitches. Even when he's fooled, he gets away with it because he can have a joke of a swing where his ass is out and he's still driving it into, a gap somewhere the other way or pull side or whatever. This dude's running an 89% overall contact rate. Like that's crazy. 89% overall contact rate. I mean, the average would be in the 70s, low 70s, if I'm not mistaken, in that league. So beyond that, 77% contact rate on pitches outside of the zone. So even if you are able to get this guy to chase, which he doesn't do, by the way, running a 15% chase rate this year, if you're able to get him to chase, he's probably spoiling it. And that explains why he's struck out 24 times in 60 games, because he's not going to chase. He's not going to miss in the zone. And then if you somehow get him to chase, he's still making contact with 77% of the pitches outside of the zone. And for reference, anything around like 50% is fine on the out of zone contact rate. So this guy just has a feel for the barrel that is rare. and it's a 70 hit for me, and I can't be more positive about that. Even though it was low A, and I know even though in high A now we've got 2 games here, he's only struck out once.
Yeah.
He could just continue to put the ball in play consistently.
It's crazy. There is a guy now that is at an affiliate. Newest Clearwater Thresher is Starlyn Caba, one of 2 new Clearwater Threshers that I want to bring up here. It's Starlyn Caba and Eduardo Tait, and we're going to talk about Tait in a moment. But before that, Caba, 52 games at the complex, hit 254 with a 427 OBP in 52 games, 37 bags. Do you see what he did in his low A debut?
No, I'm saying the National's been killing me.
3 bags in his low A debut. 1 for 3, 2 walks, 3 stolen bases.
I love this guy. He's somebody that is not going to. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 prospect. I don't think he's ever going to be somebody that turns heads. But he's going to be a WAR accumulator, I think, if he progresses the way that I believe he can. And he's 18, by the way. He's not 19. He's 18 now, already in full season ball. I know that the batting average sounds like, okay, that's a little bit lower than you'd expect. The contact rates are fantastic. It's one of the better approaches I've seen from a player at the lower levels, especially the complex. Doesn't expand at all. It would be nice to see the EVs continue to grow as he matures, but again, he's 18. Such a good defender already. We're seeing the speed and the willingness. A lot of times, I'm curious, I know you see this too. Like a lot of times when players who were comfortable stealing at the complex get to full season ball, they become a little bit timid out of the gate, and they don't get the jumps the same way. They don't seem as aggressive. Caba feels like he can steal against anybody. I think he seems very confident on the base paths and drawing those 2 walks, not straying from his approach that worked for him at the complex. That made me feel, and I know low A is not a place where they're particularly filling up the zone strike-wise either, but it's still a lot better than the complex. Like, you see guys sometimes walk a lot at the complex, and it's more of just an indictment on the pitching. First game in low A, drawing those walks, continuing to be patient, picking up the hit, and then being aggressive on the base paths. Like, this is just a really well-rounded player that I think between the defense, the speed, the approach, and the feel to hit, I feel very confident about his ability to be an everyday shortstop at the highest level. And doing this at 18 already is really impressive.
I think his first low A plate appearance, second pitch he saw, he singled the other way. And then at the end of a 4-pitch walk, the hitter following him, he was standing on third base. So steals second, steals third within 4 pitches in low A. So like, again, speaking to your point, I think you can get very gung-ho if you want, but this guy is going to pick his spots effectively enough. And he got caught a decent bit at the complex. I think as he climbs levels, and as he just gets older and spends more time in professional baseball, he'll pick his spots even better, and he could be a prolific and high-efficiency base dealer.
Absolutely. And not to mention, this is a switch hitter who's running an overall in-zone contact rate of 90%. For an 18-year-old switch hitter to be handling both of his swings that way while picking it at shortstop the way that he does, this is a ball player. He is a ball player. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't know what the makeup is there. I'd assume I'm going to profile here. I'd assume good. Yeah. I'd assume the makeup is quite good for this type of baseball profile.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. Let's jump to his Clearwater teammate now, Eduardo Tait, who went 0 for 3 with 2 Ks in his low A debut. So he's absolutely done for. Having said that, he was one of the better hitters at the complex this year. He doesn't turn 18 until August 27th. 17-year-old catcher got off the complex for a team that is looking to win a World Series. I wouldn't be moving Tait if I were Dave Dombrowski. 51 games, Eduardo Tait, 321 with an 877 OPS, 6 homers in 51 games, 17 years old. Do you know how hard it is to hit home runs at the complex in Florida, not in Arizona? This guy had 6 at 17 years old. I mean, I want to learn a lot more about this guy.
So do I. Like, I'm not going to sit here and BS you and tell you I've watched him catch.
What I won't be BSing you on is I was watching the Phillies telecast when they had one of their former players that does a ton of work at their complex in the Dominican on the broadcast. And they were talking about, old Phillies teams. And then they asked him about some of the standouts in the DSL for the last few years. And they asked about Tait, and he said, man, that guy's a ball player. Like, it seems like the Phillies brass and those that saw him in the Dominican and those that saw him at the complex are super duper high on Eduardo.
They have to be. You're not moving a catcher to low A at 17 years old outside of the Padres. You're not doing that unless you feel really good about the makeup, about just the game that he plays and how polished he is. I like his operation in the box. He starts like his bat is just sitting down low, like at his chest. He's very relaxed, but then the way that he slowly loads into it and starts it early, it's so rhythmic and it's so natural that I think this guy's going to be able to handle these aggressive assignments. What's also amazing is he's got juice. You mentioned the home runs and how hard they are to hit at the complex. You know what helps? When you can already produce exit velocities as high as 110 miles an hour.
No way.
Yeah, 110. So this is a left-handed hitting catcher who's 17, and he's producing 110s, and he's already good enough for them to have him in low A. This is another top 100 candidate, man. And the Phillies have a better farm system than they have had in a long time. In a long, long time. They're doing a lot of things right. And I mean, so it is Tait.
Tait. Yeah, it's not Tate. It's Tait.
Tait. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get more looks at him. Part of the reason why I'm very, very, very pumped to be moving down to Florida. A lot of fun players between the draft guys, between these really exciting DSL or complex players that have now gotten brought up to low A and who will continue to be. And then I want to see Walker Jenkins promoted, but maybe like in a few weeks. But he's playing too well. He's going to get promoted.
That's your hashtag some personal news. What date are you a Florida man?
Probably second week of August, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But I'm so pumped to see these guys now because it is loaded in the Florida State League. Even with McGonigle and Clark heading out, plenty of talent coming in, and the Phillies are leading some of that charge.
Yep. A couple more guys here at the higher levels. This guy is a Sugarland space cowboy now. Zach Dezenzo, 24 years old. By the way, baseball reference, instead of Ohio State University, it's the Ohio State University, which sucks.
Oh, they need to fix that.
They need to fix that. But he was a 12th round pick of Houston in 2022. He utilized his COVID year. He spent 4 years at Ohio State. His sophomore year was his COVID year. Junior year, 2021, 42 games and 933 OPS, opted to go back to school in 22, had an 1114 OPS there. Then has made his way through the minor leagues. And 22 games in AA this year. Dezenzo had a 678 OPS, but that's a little misleading because he was damn good in AA last year with Corpus Christi. He was dealing with injury. When he got back, it's kind of clear that they didn't need to see too much from him at the AA level. They just needed to see him healthy, and he's now got 2 games at Sugarland under his belt. Dezenzo is where in a very thin Astros system. I don't want to say bad. It might be bad, but like thin Astros system.
Well, I want to preface, I think I'm glad you mentioned the injury. It was a wrist injury. It's going to take some time to get that right. We still haven't seen Tommy Edman play. And he's still he's playing he's doing rehab games right now. He had a wrist issue as well, and they're still just DHing him. And then he's taking
your rehabbers, man. God,
I'm on it with the rehabbers. Come on. If I'm checking box scores, I'm running into rehabbers whether I want to or not. But Edman is only DH'd, and then he's sitting tomorrow, I think. But wrist stuff is so tough for hitters, so tough, especially for a guy like Dezenzo. I think he's top 3. I mean, he's right behind Melton, right, in this system. Yeah, right behind Baez, I guess, too. So, yeah, who's ahead of them? Nobody.
I don't know. Bryce Matthews?
That's a good one. So I think he's right there with Bryce Matthews. Matthews being younger, but Dezenzo, 24. I wanted to see what he would do, this year. Of course, we didn't get to see that because of the wrist injury. But in those 2 games in AAA since they moved him up, he has 6 hits. I understand that it's hitter-friendly out there. I get it. But 6 hits anywhere is impressive. A home run already. It seems like he's starting to get comfortable again. And that came after, when he got promoted, 3 days off. So probably got that time for that wrist to just get comfortable again. He had the games under his belt and gets a few days off, gets a new opportunity in AAA. And I mean, 6 hits in that stretch. And it wasn't even like he was bad in Double A. He had a hit almost every single game. It was just 1 hit. But he wasn't whiffing too much. Everything looked pretty good. I think he might be ahead of Bryce Matthews just because there's so much whiff concern with Bryce. And Dezenzo has already shown what he could do last year. The approach is there. The power is there. I think he might be the 3rd best guy in this system.
Cool. 2 more guys. Carter Jensen of the Kansas City Royals. Carter Jensen, catcher / DH, is really like splitting his time equally between catcher and DH. 84 games in high A Quad Cities. Carter Jensen, 271 with a 436 slug, so that's an 821 OPS. 10 homers in the Midwest League, which is pretty good. The Midwest League is not a hitter-friendly league. I'd say it's more neutral than some others, but it probably leans pitcher-friendly, especially Quad Cities, downstate Illinois. Opportunistic base stealer for a catcher, 16 for 18 in that department.
Ooh.
Is he a better athlete than I think a lot of people would expect when they see, catcher?
He definitely is. And I think that's part of the reason why he was drafted as a high school catcher as well, because, I mean, I think the only way that you can really fully tolerate the high school catcher approach is with when they're really athletic. I think those are the guys that buck the kind of buck the trend and the stigma that comes with that, though. Even if Blake Mitchell's sneaky, really athletic for a guy that's as big and powerful as he is. Added power this year, and it's really started to shine through for him. The field of hit and the approach has always been there, but he just wasn't hitting the ball hard enough. He's elevated consistently too, but when you elevate and the EVs aren't totally there, obviously it's not always going to translate. He's elevating consistently this year. The 90th percentile exit velocities jumped by 2 miles per hour. His contact rates are the same. The chase rates are still low, and I think you're seeing the results, which is an 827 OPS this year. This guy could be a trade chip with the way that he's progressed, with where Blake Mitchell's at, with Ramon Ramirez in the fold too, and them wanting to potentially be buyers. But it's also kind of sneaky here. Carter Jensen just turned 21.
Yeah,
and there's a guy that you've heard the name a lot, and it has been a little bit of a slower burn, as it is oftentimes for high school catchers. He's 21, and he just made a big leap this year. This guy could be a very intriguing prospect still, and I'm very fascinated to see how he performs in Double A, because of course that's always a big leap, especially after repeating high A. So we'll see how that all goes, but already homered. It was a little bit of a slow start for him, but he wasn't punching. Yeah. I'm fascinated to see how he handles Double A, and if he handles it well, start taking Carter Jensen a lot more seriously. Not that we don't, but start taking him very seriously.
Well, and you can't overstate the difference between a 211 hitter last year, or even 220 hitter that you saw in his first couple years of pro ball, compared to 270 in high A this year. That's the number. The clip is everything. If he's hitting 270, that feels like that unlocks a whole new level of value for a guy like that, where you do start taking him seriously as a catching prospect. And hey, it's top 15, 20 catching prospects in baseball. Carter Jensen was probably nowhere close coming into this year because you viewed him as a 211 hitter. But, if he's hitting 270 and he has the opportunity to hit the ball out of the ballpark and he has the opportunity to steal bases opportunistically, then hey, all of a sudden you have a guy that could be a top 15, top 20 catching prospect in baseball, and that's going to get them something as they look to compete even more.
I agree, and might get him Tanner Scott. The Marlins need some catching help, and I know that the Royals have been interested there. But the other thing too is he's going to walk, and I want to see if he can maintain those low chase rates. Again, guys that repeat levels, sometimes the chase rates can be a little bit deceiving because they've been seeing the same caliber stuff for a little bit. But I do think that he's got the swing decisions there to be able to maintain it. That's another just aspect to a sound kind of quality 50s to 45s across the board profile that can make him a decent catcher at the highest level.
Last promotion that we got to talk about is a guy going to Double A Portland. Speaking of the Royals, David Sandlin was the return for John Schreiber over the offseason. And Sandlin made 10 starts with high A Greenville this year before getting the promotion to Portland. Sandlin, now a Red Sox prospect. You alerted me at time of trade to David Sandlin. It's hey, this stuff is good. Is his ERA 5? Yes. Has he allowed 7 homers in 31 innings? Yes. But has he punched out 50 and walked just 11 in 31 innings? Also, yes. Why is he gross?
The stuff, man, it's also he just comes at you. The mechanics are fun where he fully kind of turns inwards. It's a backward step, knee comes up, turns inwards, and then he just uncorks velo on you. I mean, he throws fuzz. He averaged 90. He's averaging about 96.6 this year on the fastball, and it just seems to get on hitters quicker than the characteristics may suggest. It just takes off, and he fills up the zone. I think part of the problem with the home runs right now is that he's at a 72% strike rate on the fastball, and it's coming in at 96 to 98. He's touching triple digits. Guys are going to just clip enough of it at the top and backspin him out of there, and that's the thing that he's probably working to limit. But when you've got that fastball with life at the top, and then it's cutter, slider off of that are both gross. The slider has been a disgusting pitch for him, and he commands it really well. It just seems like he's able to fill up the zone and go right after hitters and almost gets them on their heels immediately. When you have that kind of stuff and you can go right after guys and fill up the zone, I'm surprised that the ERA isn't lower, but at the same time, 37% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate, like that's going to play. And I think that you still haven't seen the best of him yet. Also, I believe he missed some time with injury. So
I think so. He's been going really short, 10 starts, 31 innings in 10 starts.
So, I think that's a little bit of it as well, but it's just the home run problem right now. Yeah. It's like, and it's one home run, like each outing. But I mean, other than that, when you've got that fastball living at the top at 96 to 98, and sure, maybe if you get stretched out further, it's more 95, 96. Okay. It's still got life to it. And I like the guys that can come. If you're cutter slider and you can't quite command it, it doesn't quite play the same way. But when you have the cutter that you can set up on the outer half and then the slider that just extends off of that, and they think it's a cutter that's going to stay on the outer half, and then it's a slider that just ends up diving off the plate, that tunnel is really tough. It's even tougher when you get the fastball riding at the top. So he creates a really tough tunnel, and I think there's a reason why the Red Sox targeted him. Yeah. And I hope as he builds up, we'll see what it kind of all looks like. But it's hard to deny the stuff.
So send you into the weekend with bad news, because why not, right? That's the kind of thing that I personally like doing.
You get enjoyment from that too.
Yeah, I do. I like just being really negative at the end of something good. It's like, hey, we did a lot of promotions. Now time for something shitty. Ricky Tiedemann is getting a second and third opinion on his elbow from Keith Meister and Neil Elitrosh. How much does this piss you off, scale of 1 to 10?
9.7.
So for me, it's like 7.4, because my initial reaction was, of course. I
was gonna say, I guess the general just Tiedemann situation is a 9.7 at this point. To be honest, I'm kind of with you. It's a 7. We talked about it, and I hate, because I would love to see him succeed, but after this year with the hamstring and then another arm flare up prior to this situation, I really did lose hope that he was going to be able to stay healthy. And it just because there becomes a point where it's just, we haven't seen him string it together long enough to really be optimistic at all. So at this point, it's less about pissed off. It's more just defeated. And I can't imagine what he feels. I mean, we're just guys talking about his performance and rooting for him, from the sidelines here. But, there's nothing that crushes me more than players, extremely talented players who have already proven to us that they can be dominant, not getting the opportunity to prove it at the highest level. Go to Daniel Espino immediately.
Alex Reyes.
Alex Reyes. Espino is the one that really haunts me, because I was just really falling in love with the profile and the stuff, and looking at the data, and it just that's right up there with me. That just one of the things that drives me the most nuts in this game. And unfortunately, I mean, we'll hope maybe one more surgery can get him right, but it just seems like it just an anatomy thing for him at this point. It just seems like his body just can't quite handle what's demanded of a pitcher's workload. We talked about it though before. When he comes back, we didn't know if it was going to be this bad, but last time he had a flare up, bullpen, reliever, that's it. Mason Miller's history was really rough, and he had a lot of even other extenuating circumstances. Reliever, hope. And that's what I'm hoping. One inning guy that could be still one of the best relievers in the sport. And I'm rooting for him and wish him the best prognosis from the second and third opinions. But to me, it sounds like there's some complicated things going on there, because scheduling in advance like that for the triple opinion it's got to be some unique circumstances, and it wouldn't surprise me considering how many different ailments he's unfortunately had.
Insane. I mean, hell, man, Alex Reyes was an all-star in 2021. Like, you can hope for that, but that just sucks that we're at that point. So now that we're deflated, we can say bye. Have a nice weekend.
We can at least talk about the fact that we are going to have some fun stuff in tomorrow's episode, because the trades have been already so much fun. Yes. Orioles being aggressive. The Marlins getting Davison De Los Santos. Who would have thought that would be the return for a Tanner Scott? Or it's not even, I almost said Tanner Scott. AJ Puck, but who, by the way, also has been insane lately. So we'll add a little bit of context on the Puck side too. He dropped his release. It's been crazy. But Jonathan Clase going the other. Like, we got so many trades, and there's going to be more by the time we get ready to record tomorrow with the way things are already taken off. Arozarena. I love the idea of trading Arozarena to a team that's like a half game ahead of you in the wild card, but it's just Rays 101. We'll talk a little bit about the Rays approach and what they're targeting, why they're doing that, and how it sets them up, both 40-man wise, all that good stuff. So a lot of fun stuff to get into, and I'm looking forward to doing that. By the way, one last quick plug. If you are in the Midwest or in the greater area of the stadiums that we're going to be going to, NL Central road trip, last call here. We have actually had these tickets start to fly off the shelves, which has been really fun. Would love to see you. Would love to have you join us. We're going to be going everywhere from Milwaukee to PNC Park. This is not in order. To Wrigley. Where else am I missing, Jack? Where else? Cincinnati.
You got it. It's Monday night in Milwaukee, Tuesday night in St. Louis, Wednesday night in Cincinnati with a live podcast at 5 Eastern. You and Peter are going to be doing a live JB show from the MGM Sportsbook at Great American Ballpark. Thursday at Wrigley, Friday at PNC. It'll be good. Starts with Braves Brewers.
Link to go check that out is in the episode description. Tickets are cheap now. We have cut them, and with code Just Baseball, $5 off. So you can get them for what? $15?
18 bucks now.
$18. Well, would love to see you there. If not, we'll be talking prospects with you regardless tomorrow. Thank you for being patient with us this week. We'll get back on schedule as best as we can next week, though. I'm going to be traveling all over the Midwest, so we are going to get these episodes
after
out.
Next is the charm. That's the wheelhouse. From there, we're good.
But we'll make it work next week as well. Look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.